Hi, PerspectiveWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Thursday, March 19th. A very interesting and active weather pattern continues across the nation. We had some overnight rainfall in the Mid-Atlantic region. That has pretty much moved off the eastern seaboard. Looks like nothing more than a couple of showers for the remainder of today, tonight, and into the day on Friday. It will turn much milder this afternoon, especially down across the D.C. metro region, where they should jump into the 70s following the passage of a warm frontal system, maybe 60 degrees this afternoon in the Philadelphia metro region, probably holding in the 50s up across New York City. But on Friday, there will be a strong cold front pressing to the southeast from the northwest, and temperatures should soar into the 70s all up and down the I-95 corridor region ahead of that strong frontal system. Winds will pick up noticeably on Friday out of the southwest, gusting up to maybe 25 to 35 miles per hour or so. And again, temperatures should climb into the 70s in Philly and New York City, maybe push the 80-degree mark tomorrow midday afternoon hours in the D.C. metro region. There are likely to be some showers tomorrow afternoon into the evening associated with the approach of that front, and maybe even a strong thunderstorm or two. That front then slides on through the region in the overnight hours tomorrow night, and we get progressively colder over the upcoming weekend as strong cold high pressure builds to our north across the northeast U.S. and southeastern Canada. Anybody who's watched my videos over the years knows that a very important factor in any kind of potential snow situation is high pressure anchored to the north, and indeed it looks like we'll have one setting up at least into Sunday and Monday across southeastern Canada. And indeed there will be precipitation, moisture moving our way from the south central states into the mid-Atlantic region, probably late Sunday night, early Monday. That time frame is yet to be set in stone, and it certainly is important because that cold air mass that arrives this weekend will be slow to retreat early next week, and that will potentially set the stage for some snow even into the I-95 corridor region. This time of the year, certainly the higher elevation locations to the north and west of I-95 are more favored for frozen precipitation. That should be the case again late Sunday night and Monday, but right now we have the possibility of the 70s, maybe even flirtation with the 80-degree mark on Friday afternoon in the I-95 corridor, and then snow is certainly on the table, at least for parts of the Mid-Atlantic region, late Sunday night, Monday time frame. We'll get into that over the next few minutes here. Recently, we've been talking about the telekinetic indices like the EPO, the Eastern Pacific Oscillation, the North Atlantic Oscillation, the Arctic Oscillation, all giving us signs that there will indeed be some cold air outbreaks over the next couple of weeks. Not cold all the time, but certainly cold air outbreaks to deal with right into the early part of April. Well, this is another index called the Madden-Julian Oscillation. We certainly talk about this every once in a while. It kind of reflects what's going on down in the tropics. The EPO is the northeastern Pacific. The NAO and AO reflect what's going on in the North Atlantic. This particular index, the MJO, gives us an idea of what's going on in the tropics. There's a tropical disturbance that kind of propagates along the tropical part of the world, kind of on a regular basis. And depending on the phase of the MJO, there are certain temperature and precipitation patterns that are usually correlated depending on the time of the year and the phase of the MJO. The green here represents where this MJO index is moving over the next couple of weeks. So it's moving in this fashion right here, and those are actually cold phases for this time of the year for the eastern U.S. Phase 1, 2, and 3. And we'll see in a minute here that when the MJO kind of rotates through those particular phases, generally it results in colder than normal conditions in parts of the nation, in this case the eastern U.S., and we'll take a look at that right now. And here we go. These are actually temperature composite maps associated with the Madden-Julian Oscillation. Again, that's a tropical disturbance that propagates along the tropics, the equatorial region of the world. And depending on what phase the MJO is in, there are certain temperature patterns that have a good chance of happening depending on the phase and the time of the year. This happens to be a composite of the phases from 1 through 8 for this time of the year, the February, March, April time frame showing up right here. Notice phase 1, the blue here represents colder than normal for much of the eastern half of the nation. Phase 2, colder than normal for really much of the nation. And phase 3, colder than normal for much of the eastern two-thirds of the nation. So we're headed through these phases, which are again colder phases for much of the central and eastern U.S. for this time of the year. So yet another indication that we do have some cold air outbreaks coming our way over the next couple of weeks. And one arrives this weekend behind that strong cold frontal passage on Friday night, and that could set the stage for some snow in the mid-Atlantic region early next week, maybe late Sunday night, Monday time frame. Here's another interesting thing that's going on now. We've talked about this over the past several days. The stratospheric warming event is unfolding. That sometimes dislodges cold air over the polar regions down into the middle latitudes. So we certainly have a stratospheric warming event underway right now. This happens to be a 4-day forecast from last night, 4 days out by the GFS model. And we're looking kind of at a top-down map here. The circle right here represents the North Pole, and the U.S., it's hard to see, but is down in this region right in here. And what we're looking at are 10 millibar, way up at the top of the atmosphere, the stratospheric temperatures. And this is a warm, relatively warm air mass sitting on top of the polar region in 4 days, and it's kind of acted to displace the polar vortex southward onto this side of the pole over southern Canada, the northern U.S. Again, 4 days out from now. And this, too, is another indication that we have some cold air outbreaks to deal with over the next couple of weeks. Again, we turn progressively colder this upcoming weekend with cold air outbreak number 1. And it certainly can lead to some snow in the mid-Atlantic region, especially in the northeastern U.S. Sunday night, late Sunday night, Monday time frame. There could even be some significant accumulating snow in some of the higher elevation interior locations of the northeast U.S., interior New England and upstate New York in the Monday time frame. So again, not only is NJO going through kind of cold phases over the next couple of weeks for the central and eastern U.S., but we have a stratospheric warming event underway right now, which again can lead to cold air being dislodged from the high latitudes into the middle latitudes, and that looks like it may be the case over the next couple of weeks on an off and on basis. Well, let's now walk through last night's 0Z operational run of the GFS. Again, a very active, a very interesting weather pattern going forward. We had some overnight rains here in the Mid-Atlantic region. That has pretty much moved off the eastern seaboard. Not much in terms of rainfall for the rest of today, tonight, or even early tomorrow. Let's move forward here. That, again, now pushes off. We have a major storm out in the middle part of the country here setting up, and that will include significant accumulating snows and some heavy rains and some severe weather in the warm sector here. This is the forecast map for tonight. Again, not much activity in the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor. Certainly can be a couple of showers just about any time through the remainder of today and through tonight. This strong low pressure system, which causes significant snow in parts of the nation here, will move to the northeast from the plains to the Great Lakes region. By the time we get into tomorrow morning, it'll be all the way up into the southeastern part of Canada, and a strong cold front will be trailing on its southwest flank here. And notice a key player here, very, very strong cold Canadian high pressure along the Canadian-U.S. border here by tomorrow morning. Again, isobar pattern here. Usually the tighter these black lines here, these lines of equal pressure, the stronger the winds. Indeed, winds will pick up out of the southwest on Friday in the Mid-Atlantic region up to 25, 35 miles per hour or so, and that will push temperatures well up into the 70s in much of the I-95 corridor region. Meanwhile, it'll be snowing over the western Great Lakes. This frontal system then arrives right around this time here, Friday night time frame. A few showers are likely tomorrow afternoon into the evening, maybe even a strong thunderstorm or two in the Mid-Atlantic region, in the Northeast U.S., and that low really becomes a powerhouse. 983 millibars by tomorrow night, just north of Maine, actually into the southeastern part of Canada. Here is that high pressure system by tomorrow night. Now let's move through the weekend. We've absolutely turned colder on Saturday as compared with tomorrow. Again, tomorrow unseasonably warm with temperatures in the 70s. We may turn even colder on Sunday as compared to Saturday as that cold high pressure really begins to take hold. And here we are now by Sunday morning. Very strong high in a nice position if you like snow. Of course, it is March. This will be actually springtime here, since spring begins officially later today. But nonetheless, we have a cold, strong high across the southeastern part of Canada, kind of like a map you'd like to see in January if you're a snow lover in the northeast U.S. You even have a damming situation setting up here with the isobars kind of kink like this. That's telling you that this high pressure system is, draw this right here. See the kind of the kinky pattern here in the isobar pattern here. That is a kind of what we call a damming situation. Basically, cold air is sent down the eastern side of the Appalachians on the eastern side of that high pressure system, and it really gets entrenched on the eastern side of the mountains, and you see kind of an isobar pattern like that when this situation develops, what we call a damming situation. Let's now move forward here and watch what happens to this area of moisture here. Now this is Sunday into Sunday night. Still in the clear here. Now this high pressure system starting to shift to the north and east, and indeed that cold air mass will begin a retreat to the north and east, but it is a cold and dense air mass, and it will be reluctant to give up its ground. And by the time late Sunday night rolls around, the GFS, last night's 0Z model run, has some snow as far south as Western Virginia, now maybe even a mix in the D.C. metro region, and certainly in the higher elevations in central Pennsylvania, and then that snow kind of shifts north of the Mason-Dixon line by the time we get to Monday morning. And a couple of factors here. We certainly believe that low pressure will form and will stay to the south and east. In other words, we'll be kind of in the cold sector here in D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. Again, if this were January, this would be a really serious threat for some snow. But the low pressure itself will be to our south and east, and high pressure will start to depart by the time we get into Monday. So the faster the precipitation arrives, the better the chance for some snow in the Mid-Atlantic region. If it holds off till later in the day on Monday, still a possibility. It may warm up enough in the upper part of the atmosphere to really eliminate the chance for snow, especially south of the Mason-Dixon line. But nonetheless, snow is indeed on the table for late Sunday night into early Monday in at least parts of the Mid-Atlantic region. Again, this time of the year, you have a better chance for snow the higher up you are, farther north and west of the I-95 corridor. Let's move forward here. That actually may slide up along the New England coastline. This particular model run has it going out to sea. If it in fact hugs closer to the coast, it could have significant snow in interior sections of the northeast U.S., like upstate New York, interior New England. We just want to finally move out ahead here. We have yet another system by the middle part of next week to deal with it. So very active and interesting weather pattern going forward. The chance for the 70s throughout the I-95 corridor region on Friday ahead of a strong cold front, maybe even near the 80-degree mark in D.C. But then it turns progressively colder this weekend following the passage of that strong cold front. And we have to watch for the possibility of some snow at the onset of a system early next week, maybe in the late Sunday night, early Monday time frame. Certainly cannot rule out the possibility of snow in the suburbs along the I-95 corridor from D.C. to Philadelphia to New York City. So very interesting weather pattern here for the next several days. And again, we have the chance for cold air outbreaks on occasion right into the early part of April. That's it for now. For PerspectiveWeather.com, meteorologist, Paul Dorian.